Hello, hello. Good morning. Happy Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. You're tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information today. Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on. I know, Ted, you probably have DMZ after this, yes?
I do.
All right. So we're hard out in the next hour. Please follow us, subscribe, and like the show. We do it live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. I normally say we follow deprogram, but that's kind of up in the air at the moment.
Nah, nothing up in the air. Deprogram will continue. We're just going to figure out, who the new co-host is going to be. But there's got to be a new co-host.
Okay. So that will live on. So we will continue to follow deprogram in spite of this crazy, wild news out of our friend John Kiriakou, who, I mean, obviously so deserving of all of this success, this newfound success. I mean, the dude was sent to prison and
Yes.
had his pension taken away.
Yes.
Because,
dragged
who needs
through the
to
mud.
Retire, Ted?
Dragged through the mud, right? Like absolute, treated like shit.
Who needs to retire, Ted? I mean, this is America. Nobody retires. Come on.
Yeah, retiring is gay.
Retiring's gay. But there's only one meme that is suitable to send John off on his final day of podcasting today.
Uh-huh.
And it's this one. It's this one. You know it, yes?
Yes, that's from Zoolander.
That's right.
Hansel's
that's
so
John
hot right now.
He's so hot right now.
He is.
That's
it's
John.
So true. It's so true.
It's just John. I hope he can pivot more on the right too, not just turning left, because he can only turn left on the runway. So this is John. He's so hot right now.
I a little bit worry, he's off to Hollywood now. And,
I know. Yeah, but he's no stranger to
those
that.
Hollywood people, they're rascals.
There's a lot of weirdness. I'll say that in Hollywood.
Well, oh my God. I mean, I should tell my story. I mean, I've had probably the most notorious one. So I was I want to make sure I get this right. So this was this was the 90s. And I was hot right now. and
you were Hansel?
I was Hansel-ish. And anyway, there was a story about me, a write-up in the Los Angeles Times. Oh, how things changed. And
wow.
They did like a full-page write-up about how I was the voice of Generation X. So anyway, the head of UPN television, which you might remember, it was a broadcast channel. They reached out. The president, this guy Dean Valentine, was the president of UPN. He saw the article in the Times and we got very excited and reached out and wanted to know if I wanted to do a show. At the time, Dilbert was on his network. It was a primetime show. I believe it was on Mondays, but it was 8 p.m.
I remember.
And it had a great theme song by the Dead Milkmen. And they won. So, The Simpsons had
Scott Adams, R.I.P.
The Simpsons was at 8. The King of the Hill was 8:30. They needed a King of the Hill. So that's where Ted Rall comes in. So they reached out to me and they were like, would you like to be our 8:30? You'll come in, you'll bring up the rear after Dilbert. I'm like, duh. So I came up with a show called Boomerang, which basically was the pitch was it's the anti-Simpsons. Instead of the Simpsons is a nuclear family that lives in the suburbs, albeit a suburb that has a canyon and a slum and a lot of other stuff, but still, it's a suburb. And my thing was, this is an extended postmodern family that reflects the America that we have today with step half, trans, adopted from Ethiopia, a whole hodgepodge of weirdos, all from different
Angelina Jolie type weirdness.
Exactly. All living in a sprawling, rundown, semi-abandoned Victorian home in Newark, New Jersey. And and anyway, it went far. It went into development. It got to we got to the merchandise phase. I
Wow.
mean, we got very, very far. And they sent me the deal contracts, which were the size of if you remember phone books, they were the size of like a mid-range phone book, and with all the little
Wow.
tabs and everything. I remember
Okay.
the contracts came in a banker's box. There were that many copies of them, and they were that thick.
Oh, the
Anyway,
old days.
I signed them all, FedExed them back to LA from New York. They told me, oh, you have to like wrap things up. You're going to have to move to Los Angeles, blah, 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 blah. I'm getting ready to do all that. And then I don't hear anything. In fact, I literally never heard anything again, ever. So
What?
2 days later, I read in the Wall Street Journal that Dean Valentine is out on his ear in a corporate reshuffle, that he's gone from UPN, which kind of explains what happened to my deal. So when a president of a network is out, you're gone.
Right.
You know, they kill the chimps. They kill the chimps.
Wow.
So they killed all the
things
chimps.
don't, like, the regime doesn't continue. It's basically out with the master.
Yeah, that's right. It's not always like that in print media. In
Wow.
print media, sometimes as a cartoonist, you will survive if the new editor likes you.
Right,
But
right. I just assumed
on TV, even if they like the show, doesn't matter. They'll get rid of it just because it's not theirs.
Right, right. It's not their baby. It's like a grizzly bear, a male grizzly bear.
It is.
It'll kill the baby grizzly of a female that it wants to mate with.
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
So, there's that. And Sir Bikes-a-Lot, thank you for the donation. Sir Bikes-a-Lot says, good morning, about your child wanting to join the military. Yours, Ted. Mine, I don't think has any interest.
Yeah, not yet.
About your kid wanting to join the military, encourage them to join the Coast Guard. Their special forces is diving into the ocean to save lives. As for John
that's
leaving,
true. I had my
how about TMI being longer?
My brother-in-law is in the Coast Guard reserves, and I think the Coast Guard.
Your ex-brother-in-law.
Ex-brother-in-law. The Coast Guard is cool. It's true. Yeah,
I did not.
They're not invading. They're not invading. You know,
they're not invading. No, but I did not. I was surprised to hear that because I did not. I don't look at your son as a military type. I mean, I know him a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, he's not going to join the military.
Yeah,
he's just not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
especially
in this time.
We're past that. Like, he's politicized now. He's not going to do that.
I have a girlfriend whose son, he's 20 years old. One of my best girlfriends, and she's asking me about all of this, because he has to make a decision on whether or not he joins the Army by May.
Oh boy.
And
why does he have to make a decision by May?
I don't know. He's already done all his tests and all that stuff, and he's approved to go in. He asked for time. He asked for time to consider what he wants to do. Right.
Okay.
And I was just talking to her the other day, and I begged of her, and I said, if you want me to talk to him, I'll talk to him. This is not only a horrible time to join the military, given who is president, but in general, like at least in the modern era, you cannot trust your future or your kid's future to this duopoly that's in charge in Washington, because they will flagrantly send your son to die.
That's true.
Somebody else's war. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, this is a very, very close, one of my best friends. And it's just it's not a good time to join. I mean, literally, unless you're going in as like a military doctor, or you're maybe a drone operator. I don't know. At this point, we're talking about boots on the ground as I mean, even though Trump didn't do it yesterday, and we'll get into that, but it's just a dangerous time to be in the military. And this is coming from somebody who I'm married to a disabled veteran. And I'm a part of that community, and I know a lot of these people, and everybody says the same thing. All the vets say the same thing. There is, for them at this stage that we're at politically in this country, there is no honor for them to see their sons follow in their footsteps. I don't know one
I think it's
vet.
been a long time since there has been. I mean, I think the last war that the American people were behind and went pretty well and really lasted and pretty much we look back and think, oh, they did a pretty good job, was the Gulf War, wouldn't you say?
The first Gulf, the original
the
Gulf War.
1991 Gulf War, yeah.
Yeah, but the whole reason we went into the whole Kuwait and babies in the hospital left to die and all that was bullshit. So
That's true.
Was it a success? Okay, sure. But what are we comparing it against, right? The premise of going to that war in the first place is bullshit, as we know. It's all been debunked now. So really, I can't say there was anything, not since World War II, was there any valid reason to actually join a war. I just can't see it.
Well, we weren't, that's the last time the United States was attacked.
Yeah, and that's the only valid war I think we rightfully joined. Albeit at the end of that joining, our role, as an America, Uncle Sam's role was highly, highly over. I mean, I'm not taking away the contributions of the American military in that war, but it's way overblown to the point that they diminished the Soviet Red Army.
Oh God, I know. It's so it's ridiculous. I mean, the Russians did all the work, and we show up
the
and
heavy
clean
lift.
Up.
Yeah, for 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah,
and then here's Johnny Come Lately. We saved the world from the Nazis.
Right. No, it's. I mean, and I'm going to say honestly, I think the Russians have been very, very gracious about this because they don't really talk about how unfair it is, and that we say that we don't even mention their contribution. That we don't, and they don't, and
ours is the stolen valor.
But they're grateful to us. They're literally they always talk, even right now with what's going on between Putin and the United States. The Russians are always careful on Victory Day to say we appreciate the sacrifice of our. When you and I were on Sputnik, they always on VE Day, the Russian VE Day, they always had this little cheesy recording that they played. That we had that they made in Russia that we had to play with this grave, very Russian sounding, memorialization of all the people who died. But they always said, and we really appreciate our allies who helped us. Yes. They're much nicer about it than they should be.
Yes. And in all the American movies, no mention of the Red Army. It just didn't exist.
Manila, when you mentioned this to other Americans, that they lost roughly 28 million people. Yeah. It's people are what? They don't know.
What do you mean? How? Americans have never heard of this. Ever. So that's what I say is when I look at the US military and are there perks to joining, and at one point or another, yes.
Of course there are.
Of course, you get the GI Bill and all. I mean, they've renamed it or whatever it is now, but there's the GI Bill, and then there's other healthcare benefits. And by the way, I just want to speak up as the wife of a disabled veteran is that people, there are hawks on the Democratic side mostly who are trying to shit on veterans right now and their benefits for disability, because I think the VA has done a bad job in terms of PR, and this isn't like a VA benefits for veterans thing. It is workers' comp. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because people don't view the military they view the military as something separate other than a job. It's a job for X amount of years that you're contracted to do. And in those jobs, whether you are the garbage guy, the cook, a doctor, a nurse, a pilot, a Green Beret. That is your job. That's your title. That's your job position.
Yeah.
If you are a dude in Iraq like suffering and sniffing up burn pits for 5 years, and you have
That's good times.
And you have lung issues now, and you're 45 years old, you can barely walk up a flight of stairs. And I know people like that are my age that just look like shit because they cannot breathe. They cannot. You're going to say that those guys don't deserve their workers' comp? Because that's what it is. It's workers' comp. Because if you worked at the supermarket and you had a slip and fall because a jar of pickles fell and broke, you're entitled to workman's comp.
True.
But when you're in the military and you're exposed to Agent Orange or you're whatever, you're saying those guys aren't entitled. That there's a lot of conversation about that right now, and I think that's a really shitty thing to even reconsider, that they want to take away veterans' benefits. There are people on the Hill right now talking about it. That's bullshit.
No, look, it's ridiculous. Whatever you think of the wars, these are people who did what was asked of them, right? That's all.
And mostly people that came from less than well-to-do backgrounds. Certainly not congressmen's kids.
Right.
So you're going to ask a guy that's from, like, I don't know, Appalachia. And I don't mean J.D. Vance. I mean, like, you're going to ask a guy that's from some below the poverty line Appalachian community who has suffered burn pits for 5 years. And then he's going to come out and say, I need help. I can't get a good job because I can't fucking breathe. You're going to take those veterans' benefits and the money, the workman's comp, basically, away from that guy. He doesn't have.
Look, the thing is, as far as I'm concerned, remember how, like, Colin Powell, before the Gulf War, our last successful war, said that, about the Pottery Barn rule, about, he famously warned George H.W. Bush, if you invade Kuwait and then Iraq, you break it, you own it, right? In other words, you can't just if you break an American soldier, you break a young man or woman, you break that person. You send them into combat or not combat, whatever. You send them into war and something bad happens to them. That's on you. You broke them. You have to fix them. And you have to fix them and keep them fixed the rest of their life. And it's not like, oh, they have to live on the street or sucks to be them. Like, no. Why does anyone ever enlist, given the fact that they get lied to over and over by the military? Manila, the history of American veterans being lied to by the U.S. military is as old as the Republic itself. Robbie likes to talk about the bonus army. Those are the World War I veterans who were promised a bonus. They never got it, and it was okay during the 1920s when the economy wasn't bad. But then during the Depression, a bunch of these people camped out on the Washington Mall because they were broke and homeless, right? And they're like, we fought in World War I. We sucked up mustard gas. We lived in the trenches. You guys should fucking pay us our bonus like you promised. And Congress is like, not only like, fuck you, they sent the U.S. Army out to massacre them, led by a young Douglas MacArthur. If you go back to the Revolutionary War, the officers and were promised giant land grants by the Patriot Army, and if they fought against the Brits, but the lesser soldiers were offered land grants in what was then the West, places like Ohio and Pennsylvania. Guess who got their land grants? The officers who were rich and well connected, and the ordinary conscripts got robbed. Some of them got it, but not most of them didn't. Everyone knows they're a bunch of lying sacks of shit.
Yeah. So, this is the last bit of help that these guys and gals who join the military. These aren't rich kids that join. My friend's son, they ain't rich, let me tell you. And they're in California paying $7 a gallon right
And
now.
I don't care if they are rich. It's like,
right.
still, the
it's
point
still
is,
not right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, yeah, you're raising an army. You're sending them, by the way, you're sending them to fight. They're not even defending their homeland, right? You're sending them to fight a war of choice. All the more reason why you can't even say like, well, you were defending your family. No, you're just basically paid to do this. So they owe you, you are owed.
It's workman's comp. That's what it is. Bottom line. But anyway, that ties perfectly into our very first story, which we'll get to. We'll break down, Ted, real quick. Ted, this was Trump's fastest speech ever.
Yeah, 19 minutes. 19 minutes.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. All right, so for the whole 19 minutes last night, President Trump finally addressed the country directly rather than tweeting or truthing about the war, which timing-wise would have been a lot more useful, I'd say, back when the bombs first started dropping on February 28th. The tone was serious, presidential-ish, as presidential as Trump can be.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like the swagger coming out like Obama when like we got bin Laden. It wasn't
right.
It was almost it was for Trump. This is for Trump. So
no. I hear you. I think that's fair to say.
Trump. He wore a suit. So
he wasn't like Jeffrey Toobin. He was wearing clothes.
So, yeah. So he was
clothes
wearing
were
a full
worn,
suit, top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Very much trying on this. He was putting on his costume of wartime leader. The substance. It was, look, I said yesterday that I think it'll be a nothing burger, but if it's something, it would be that he walks us to war, not backwards. So it's the best that we can get was that it's his greatest hits remix of everything we've heard on social.
He's not a good speaker. And I guess he doesn't even know how to hire a good speechwriter.
Who's writing his speeches? Oh my God, this was terrible. So in other words, not so much Winston Churchill. No. But just kind of a live rehash of his Truth Social posts. Like that's basically what we saw. The speech was basically a long victory lap with no finish line.
Yeah, that's the weird part, right? That's really well said, because I mean, we all knew he was going to be like, I won, I changed the regime, everything's awesome.
We saw he died.
Remember the Lego movie? Everything is awesome. And it's like, okay, but if that's true, that happens when the war is over. And you've pronounced VI Day. You're like, all the troops come home, we all celebrate, and that's it, right?
No, but there's no finish line here, Ted.
Right, that doesn't make any sense, because if there's no finish line, how do you have a victory?
Well, I mean, George W. Bush did the same thing. Remember, he dropped the banner on the, I don't know, was it the Gerald Ford or whatever carrier?
Yeah, that's right.
Victory! Like, all right.
Well, cool. He did mission accomplished, right? But
mission accomplished.
That's a little more nebulous. Mission accomplished, I mean, definitely implies like we're done. But you're right.
We're
a
done.
lot of this stuff came out out of the Iraq War playbook. A lot of it, like the manufactured threats that don't make any sense.
Is Paul Wolfowitz in there somewhere and we don't know? Like,
he's back.
Is he hiding somewhere, like in a shoe closet or something? Like
Dick Cheney never really died.
Right. Like, was that a fake funeral? Like, what?
Well,
are these the same people from the Bush era? What's happening here? Like, Colin Powell, did they resurrect him? Like, what is happening?
By the way, Robbie said we did have an ad. That was 16 minutes ago. I'm not sure if we still do.
No, he said no. Okay.
Well,
I asked him in the Telegram chat, but he didn't reply if it was still there, so I just moved on. So anyway, so there's no finish line, right? But Trump did say that Iran's Navy and Air Force are toast. Nuclear sites buried under rubble, and so many senior leaders have been killed, casually implying, this kind of de facto regime change, except that's all bogus because a regime is like the whole lot of them.
Yeah, it's like if you like, yeah, was it
It's not
regime?
one dude.
Was it regime
A lot of them.
change? Was Watergate regime change? Because I mean, you lost both the president and the vice president, right? And a whole bunch of cabinet members. But I don't think it's regime change. It's not like the U.S. system. We got a new constitution. We got a new system. Like, it's the same.
No, so I don't know what the regime would be called, but let's just call it the Ayatollah regime, right? Like, no, they just plop in a new Ayatollah. That's not.
Yeah, who we don't even get to see.
Yeah, so whatever. Okay. Then he says, we're going to finish the job. We're going to finish it very fast. Always reassuring language, Ted, from a man currently running a war with no clearly defined goals.
Yeah.
It's good.
Go wrong. What could go wrong?
But he says, even though it's going to go very fast, he says, we're still going to hit Iran very hard for another 2 or 3 weeks.
And I'm like, okay, but if you've already destroyed, just went through a list. You destroyed all their missile batteries. You destroyed their uranium stockpile is buried beneath the rubble where no one can get to it. It's been turned into dust, as Trump says. You've destroyed, you've already pounded them. You've destroyed their Navy and their Air Force.
We're sending them back to the Stone Age. Remember?
Stone Age is the plural.
Oh, plural. Were there more?
Apparently, there were several Stone Ages that you and I were not privy to. So, by the way, I'd be curious to ask Robbie if under creationism, the Stone Age ever happened or existed. But I don't know what I honestly am curious what.
Don't open those can of worms right now.
I'm curious what Christian doctrine says about that. I don't know the.
I'm
not being snide. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either, but I know it's a can of worms, so don't.
Robbie says, why not? Robbie says, why not? Okay, all right, why not? Fair enough.
Not right now because there's no time. But that would be an interesting conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's no. He didn't lay out a peace plan, a détente plan, and there's still like this.
Well, the Iranians,
the threat buffet.
So here's what's going on. I think what we have is a failure to understand another person's point of view, which is a very American phenomenon, right? I mean, like, let's say you're negotiating let's say you go to a flea market or a swap meet and you're trying to negotiate for that old pair of socks. Well, you need to get into the seller's head. Like, how much is this guy probably going to be willing to sell these socks for, right? Like, it's not just about how much you want the socks. That's part of it. But it's also like, what will work with him? Like, for example, I'm on eBay. I buy political buttons. And one of the things I've noticed that really works is to get into someone's head. If I think their price is too high, I will send them a message and I'll say, you know what? Thank you so much for reading this. I love this pin. I'm wondering if by any chance you can do a little better. If you can't, no muss, no fuss, no worries. Thank you so much for reading it. I appreciate you.
Sure.
And just thanks for considering. Have a nice day. More often than not, people, they give me they give me a discount just because I wasn't like, most people come at you and they say, there's a ding in that pin. You said it was in good condition. It's not in good condition. It's like, like it shouldn't cost that much. And people are like, fuck you. I'm not selling you my pin. I'll burn my pin rather than give it to you. So it's about getting into the other person's mindset, right? And okay, so the Iranian mindset is, we were negotiating with you assholes, not once but twice when you attacked us at the same time, and your Israeli ass buddies came and drove their snouts right up our asses and killed a bunch of our schoolgirls in a really dishonorable killing. I mean, actually, the Americans did that, right? But
yes,
but the point is, and then we've been dealing with you assholes sabotaging our economy, financing the Iraqis against us in the Iran-Iraq war, blah 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 blah. You know what?
For 47 years.
We're a 7,000-year-old culture, but even for us, our patience is limited and it is over. And we now need total victory. We need to know unconditional surrender. We need the United States and the West and Israel to leave us the fuck alone forever and ever and ever. And we need it on paper engraved. written in blood. I mean, that's where they're at. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
They can't
I
settle
don't
for
blame them
a
either.
little wee ceasefire.
They were
Look at
trying
the
to be
Gazans.
like cool with us. They tried to be cool during the
did.
Obama years and make like
they wanted diplomatic relations. They wanted
détente. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
they don't
want
need
to be
to be our
friends.
besties.
They want to do trade with us. They want to do business with us.
They know
It's
that I think they know they weren't going to be BFFs with us, right? But they
right.
at least
Although we
figured
could have
we
been
could be golf buddies.
But we could have been.
We could have been like at least, you know, the friends you see at the country club and you have lunch with. Maybe you don't hang out with them. You know, you don't invite them to your house or your baby's christening. But you know, you see them at the country club and you ask them out to, you know, join for a few links, right? Like that's kind of casual. They wanted a casual friendship, and we couldn't do that.
Well, and so
course,
the point is, and now they're like, they look at us. They're like,
why
you guys agreed to a ceasefire over in Gaza, and you're still bombing them, right? So we don't
the Gazans are
trust
still dying.
you. We don't trust
Nobody
you.
trusts us. The Russians, hello, like
no
the
one
G7
can trust
nations
us. We're inherently untrustworthy.
We're untrustworthy. I've said this for the past 4 years. When the G7 floated the idea, well, they've already frozen the Russian assets in the tens of billions of dollars, and they're like, we're just going to give it to Ukraine now.
Yeah, we're going to steal it.
That's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything but make the world distrust Western banking and never put their money ever again in, I don't know, B of A or wherever they put it, Deutsche or whoever.
Who would? If I had $1 billion, I wouldn't.
You just showed that's what you did.
I would park that money in brick bucks before I parked it in American dollars in a U.S. bank. Yeah. What if one day the president of the United States gets up and decides I don't like dead Rall? That's no good.
Yes. So, I mean, that's the same thing that's happening here. So on that note, on the economy, Trump blew past the part, you know, that we're getting body slammed with high gas prices again. But he framed this as an investment for our children and our grandchildren's future. So,
ridiculous.
You know, they don't have to fight this war or whatever.
I don't think the American, first of all, you know, that's first of all, a lie. But let's just say
all of it was a lie.
It's all a lie. But let's say it was not a lie, Manila. The American people don't care about their children or their grandchildren. If they did, they'd care about the environment and they wouldn't be buying Ford F-150 trucks, right? We can't think further than the tips of our little noses. We have no sense of the future. We figure the future will never happen. We have no sense of the past. We have no sense of the future. We're living here in the moment, right? Right here, right now, I'm going to vape and smoke weed and drink wine because, you know, tomorrow we may die. That's the American personality.
Maybe up to next week. Maybe.
But the American people do not fucking think that way. And I think...
No, it's not our culture.
No.
We're not a saving culture. That's why...
Yes, well
that's
said.
Why,
think about the Japanese.
Why savings are down. And
savings are such a big deal in Asia that literally the post office is where you save because... Japanese people go every fucking few days. Yeah, the postal service has its own bank, and like everyone goes to the bank and deposits a bit of their paycheck like all the time.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. But yeah, coming from obviously an Asian cultural background, even here
is everything.
You know, in the States, savings is everything. Like it's all planned for tomorrow, right? Like always just look forward to tomorrow. Whereas like the American, the Western culture is like, now live in the present. YOLO.
Totally.
YOLO, bro. And by the way, Ted, I think I say we skip straight to number 4 after we wrap this Trump thing. But look, the whole point of this thing, because we're running out of time. We got to go to DMZ.
Yeah, that's true. I got to do DMZ with Stephen Notley, who was the cartoonist for Bob the Angry Flower.
Oh,
I know. You're going to be like, "What the fuck is a Bob the Angry Flower?" But he's a brilliant guy, and the strip is fantastic. So,
well, cartoonists, I've met enough of your friends, or at least interviewed them, or whatever, that I've discovered. Well, yeah, I mean, you would think they're humorists, right? And they're clever.
Yeah,
so that tends to be a thing. And lastly, of course, Strait of Hormuz. Trump basically said, "Not our problem." But we created the problem for these other people. But he said America will be helpful.
I love that, right? It's like,
but other people should take the lead, Ted.
This reminds me of the time that my roommate, who was a slut, went out and got herpes. And then he's like, oh, hey, no more shared towel. And I'm like, how come there's no shared towel? Because, I'm down.
Why would you share a towel?
Yeah, we were guys, and we only had like a couple of towels.
No.
And I'm like, so
would
I
you
have to buy a new
toothbrush?
I have to buy a new towel because you're a whore? Like, what?
What is wrong with you boys? Is that what boys do? Gross.
We also shared socks and jeans too.
Yeah.
We all were the same exact size. It was like weird. Like 6'1" and 6'1.5", 6'2", 6'2.5".
College. College
we were poor.
age boys.
We were so poor. I can't even begin to tell you.
What the? But a shared towel, Ted? Come on.
Well, so the point is, so the Strait of Hormuz is the shared towel of the world, and like now, Trump, after fucking Stormy Daniels, has left herpes jizz stains all over it, and now suddenly France has to deal with it. Like what? How? I have to clean it. I have to wash your towel. Like, why do I have to wash your towel? I didn't schmutz it up.
It's a gross analogy, but it's spot on.
Thank you.
It's spot on. Okay,
and I agree. It's a very gross analogy. No question.
But it's right. Like, we started this problem in the Strait of Hormuz, and we're like, yeah, but we don't get any of the oil from there. We're the biggest oil producer in the world. We have more than Saudi Arabia. We have the millions of oil barrels
to story
from Venezuela.
Manila, I'm a little surprised that you didn't put birthright citizenship oral arguments in the rundown today.
Well, because we covered it a little bit yesterday, so
all right.
We'll cover it. Look, we'll skip number 2 and 3. We'll throw that in there for tomorrow, but we'll go straight to the fourth one because it's our our hobby is science. As
it is, that's true, and we're pretty good at it here. Background. We do a pretty good job on that. I feel.
I do too for being non-scientist, but you have a little bit of a science background, little bit of
out of a good engineering school.
Little bit, yeah. You have a little bit, and I'm like a science spectator, so I know a thing or two about some sciences, right? So this one, the story that we talked about yesterday, if you guys didn't hear, Ted shared. We always talk about microplastics, and you guys know I'm like really weird about like food and like contamination, and I'm really weird about that stuff, right? So microplastics is a thing to me, although I always was suspect of them saying that we take in a whole credit card's worth of plastic every year. That just seems, I don't know.
Well, seemed high or low to you?
High.
Really?
So we'll talk about that. That's the story we'll jump to next before we wrap up, and then Ted's got to get to DMZ, which TMI will raid into. So stay tuned for that. So let's get to some microplastics. Yum!
Scientists have just uncovered one of the more awkward plot twists in modern environmental research. Lab gloves themselves might be contaminating the studies about microplastics. Yeah. In other words, some of the tiny plastic pollution researchers thought that they were finding in air, water, environmental samples, up their assholes. May not have come from the environment at all. Remember, there's plastic in your brain. There's plastic in your semen. They may have come from the scientists' own hands.
In your placenta.
Yeah, in your placenta. That's right. A new study out of University of Michigan found that common nitrile and latex gloves shed tiny particles of, microplastics onto lab surfaces during routine handling. The problem is that those particles, called stearates, aren't actually plastics, but they can look almost the same as microplastics under certain testing conditions. This matters because the contamination was not subtle. Researchers found glove contact could create 2,000 false positive signals per square millimeter. At one point, one scientist said the microplastics readings were coming back thousands of times higher than expected, which kicked off what she basically described as a scientific, what the fuck is going on? Turns out the gloves were the culprit. Now, before anyone starts doing victory laps for big plastic, the researchers were clear. This does not mean that microplastics are fake or overblown. There's still a lot of plastic contamination out there, as we know from the giant island of plastic in both oceans. That is so big that ships have to circumnavigate it, right? The point is that some studies may be accidentally overcounting it. And in a field where scientists are already trying to measure tiny particles floating through an already contaminated world, that's a big problem. The good news is they found a fix. Clean room gloves performed better because they released fewer.
That, though?
I don't know what those are. Researchers say that they may now be able to revisit some older data sets and separate the actual microplastics from the glove bullshit. So the takeaway here is not microplastics are awesome. It's that when you're hunting for invisible pollution in a world covered in plastic, even your safety gear can be a problem.
So I found that so hilarious when you mentioned it yesterday. So I kind of like dug into it. But there are a few things, like the more I thought about it, Ted, the more I grew angry. Like,
really?
Yes, not because I'm like my hair is on fire with microplastic contamination, which is something I care about, obviously, especially with food.
Oh,
like I don't microwave
you should
plastic.
care about it.
Yeah, I'm not like, I'm just not very hair on fire about a lot of things. So I try to avoid, like, I use glass, I use like metal bottles for every, metal and glass. And
I'm the same way.
So
in fact, I replaced my, on the Vitamix, it comes with a plastic urn. And I always thought that was a little weird, And the reason
not glass?
It's not glass. It's hard plastic. It's supposedly not the bad plastic, but still it's plastic, and it gets very agitated and very hot. So I was kind of like, so I bought a metal replacement vessel. So I'm with you.
Oh, a metal one. Huh. Yeah. So I do care enough about that. And I do believe, especially if you pop it in the microwave and there's, like microbial size things floating all around, like it's just not a great environment. So, but here's what made me mad is then I started thinking about trust the science. I started thinking back to the COVID era and how, like, what the fuck
I knew you would.
happened? What the fuck has happened to like the American scientific process, right? Like our processes are fucked. Like in my line of work, my career, and yours too, Ted, because you're a journalist too. They grill us about our sources, our methods. How did we get those quotes? How did we drill down to that story? How, fake news. Well, what the fuck, scientists? We know now from, big tobacco or you name anything, as Mike Papantonio used to say, he'd call them biostitutes, is all of the scientific data can be manipulated to fit the narrative of whoever is paying for that study and what they're trying to achieve, right? So I've been aware of that for a very long time. And so I started thinking about all of that and COVID, and like, you can't question the science. Everybody, that's an NPR listener, like hearing us talk about how the microplastics news might be a wee bit overblown. They're lighting their hair on fire right now, right? Like, oh my God, Manila and Ted talking about, like they're questioning the science. Yes, that's the whole point of the scientific process, is you always have to question. Did we not learn anything from the COVID era of like, you have to question the science? That is part and parcel of the scientific process. Like on top
that is
of it,
the science.
That is the science.
So I think follow the science is a misnomer, in the same way that information wants to be free. Remember, as print media was trying to figure out how to handle the internet, they started to give away all their newspaper and magazine content for free. And they said, information wants to be free. Well, information wants to be free didn't refer to financial freedom. It meant, when people said that, it meant that information has a way of, it wants to get out there. It wants to be in as many different places as possible. It doesn't mean it wants to not be paid for, but it's a misnomer. And similarly, when people said follow the science, following the science is a process. Science isn't,
right.
there is no scientific, there can be a scientific consensus on things, but that scientific consensus is by definition only good as of right now. And by definition, and it may never change. I mean, I don't think we're going to give up on the theory of gravity anytime soon. But things, but even that, everything is like up for. It's a process. You're trying to figure out what's true, and you're never. You can be 99.999% sure what's true, but I don't think. I think it's fair to say you can never be 100% sure what's true.
I agree. Like, questioning the science isn't the problem. Blind trust is. That's called faith.
Yeah, in anyone or anything.
Like, real science is supposed to survive scrutiny. Literally, pun intended, meant to survive being put under the microscope. Like,
now, of course, in this case, it could be argued that, look, the scientific process did work here. This woman, she saw these figures. She said something's wrong. She looked into it. She released the information. But it was
something
and at least she hasn't gotten. The good news is she didn't get shot down, Manila. She didn't get told what the fuck are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, pause there, because we now have to do an ad because it's time sensitive again. So Robbie says and we got to do it before the end of the show. But yeah, the incentives here are all fucked up as well with the science community. Careers are now being built on who's first, right? With this study or whatever, not about being right. The narrative remains, even if you're fucking wrong. That's the problem with science, just like Russiagate, right? I know it's political science there, but you're first out the gate. Oh, never mind, it's gone. Okay. That was quick. That's what she said. But this is just the world that we live in, is that there are very few things in the scientific community that is like settled science, because things always evolve because the inputs always change, right? Like that's the world we live in. We live in a world of constant flux. So if the conditions change, thus the inputs change, thus the outcome will change. So it cannot, there are very, very few things that are forever true, like gravity. And even then, if you discover new ways, like we're talking about, the antimatter getting moved out of fucking CERN, right?
Yeah, well, for example, we don't know dark matter. We don't even, that didn't even, something, no one had crossed its, basically, it's no one even knows what it is. Dark matter is just basically we know there's something there, or we think there's something there, but we don't know what it is, but we know it weighs something. It's out there. We just can't fucking figure it out. We can't ID it. Well, that's going to change, right? By definition, when you have something that's vague like that. I thought it was super interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just very important to point out that Ted and I believe in climate change. Ted and I believe in microplastics. We believe in
climate change is super, and I believe in climate change because it's easy science. It can be explained to a third grader with a terrarium, and I know because I was a third grader when it was explained to me with a terrarium, and when I was back in 1971. So yeah. In Mrs. Taylor's class, she was able to explain it to me.
And in 1988, in Mrs. Duffy's third grade class, I was able to replicate that terrarium experiment, Ted, and changing the environment and what happens to our little plants and our little whatever if we expose it to, more heat or drier dirt.
Right.
Mrs. Duffy showed us that. So that's science, right? Because it can be replicated. That's over and over and over and over and over. The problem in the world that we're living in today is, and it's people from our industry, Ted, that look, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yep.
So we have conditioned the modern world into having a built-in bias for bad news. I don't know if that's, I don't know if it's, maybe we're born that way as humans. I don't know. But at least I know that being part of the media for the past 20 whatever years I've worked in it, I do know that at the very least there's some level of conditioning that we've done to society that
Oh,
people want. I mean,
100%.
that's why they say if it bleeds, it leads. So we're telling everybody that everything is toxic, everything is contaminated, everything is dangerous. That's the noise that gets amplified. But then if there's something like this news that comes out, it's only published in this one little fucking Michigan State Journal or whatever it was, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's published in one little, MSNBC's not talking about it. CNN's not talking about it. Little old TMI is talking about it.
Yeah, true.
Like, that's journalism and that's science. Like you just follow the clues wherever they take you. Like you can't have your presupposed, you can have a theory, but you can't have a predetermined outcome, right? Neither in science nor in journalism, if you want to be fair. And nobody else is talking about this. So it's worth balancing out that, hey, a lot of these studies about microplastics might be a wee bit overblown because of the testing methods. There's contamination. That's the news. That's the story. Not that microplastics aren't real and they're not really found in dead people's brains, because they are. But the news is we should not, as COVID should have shown us, scientists can be swayed, scientists can be bought, and they can be derps.
Yeah, that's true.
Accidentally, incidentally, these guys were derpy in their all these plastic studies. Like they're just as moronic as me or Ted or Robbie or any one of you.
It's true.
Hey,
yeah.
Look at this brain, Ted. I found all kinds of plastic in this brain. Poke, poke, poke. Let's put it under a microscope.
It's so funny though.
So that is a science fail story, and that's why we're talking about it on TMI.
Speaking of science fail, maybe not science, but so I think we called this yesterday. We said that in all likelihood, the U.S. Supreme Court was not going to overturn birthright citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
That the legal,
are they back with the?
No, but the oral argument increasingly, Manila. Don't you remember? You and I both. You followed the Supreme Court maybe more than I have, but my recollection is only in the last 5 to 10 years did the Supreme Court justices really start to show their hands during oral arguments to the point where journalists were able to tell which direction the court was leaning. For sure. 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case at all. You couldn't tell, you didn't have a clue. And they would ask questions, but you couldn't tell. Sometimes a justice might be really harsh on one position and then rule in favor of it. Now, so based on what we could tell yesterday, it looks like an overwhelming majority, including most of the conservatives on the court, will probably just didn't buy what the government was selling. And that's why President Trump left early. He was in a fit of pique. He was upset because things weren't going well. But he obviously needs to go back to listening to the TMI show because, we had like we were right. We could have told him, dude, you can save the trip.
We explained it in the most plain, simple language that Trump can understand. And by the way, in case you guys didn't know, we do cater our language to whichever POTUS is in office. Like when we had Joe Biden, we had to talk very slowly and clearly over and over and over, reiterating in a calm tone. With Trump, we have to say bro and dude a lot, and
nobody's ever seen a podcast like the TMI show. Nobody ever thought anyone could do it, but only Manila and I could do it. We did it. No one, our predecessor podcasters, they left it to us. They should have taken care of it, but they didn't do it. Now we have to take care of it.
Ted and I, we do pander and cater to the POTUS, whoever it is. So
the SCROTUS.
So anyway, we'll leave that there. Which
is less plasticky than you thought it was.
It
come full
is. We're
circle.
less plasticky, so how about that? Which is good. I'm glad. I'm
No,
glad.
I like to
I'm
think, I
glad.
like knowing that my testes are less plasticky than I believed.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
glad. I'm happy to know that the baby in my belly right now is not already super infected with
No,
microplastics.
that is seriously a relief. And Manila,
Just a wee bit.
I gotta hop over to DMZ America
Adios,
with
amigo.
Sky
Stay tuned
Stantis.
for DMZ coming up right next. We're gonna raid right in.
Yeah. Bye.
Adios, amigos. Bye, all. Thank
Ciao.
you.